More of a team player, I repeated evenly, even though my nails were digging into my palm under the table. Sitting across from me in her glassed-in office overlooking downtown Seattle was my manager, Denise Whitaker. Mid-50s, wearing a blazer one size too small and a smile that looked like it was cut from plastic. She leaned back in her chair, voice sweet as syrup. "Monica, you're sharp. Seriously, you are. But Lindsay? She's got that likability factor. People just gravitate to her. She's easier, not better, not more skilled, just easier." I was 41 now. I'd come to Northlake Partners when I was 35, walking away from a stable teaching career and throwing myself headfirst into the corporate grind. 6 years of 2 a.m. deadlines, emergency pitch decks, and cleaning up the client messes nobody else would touch. I'd grown our West Coast division by double, created an entire onboarding system from scratch, and slashed nearly $2 million in operational costs. But here we were. Lindsay, with her avocado toast selfies and Pinterest-worthy motivational quotes, was the one getting promoted. Denise made a show of shuffling some papers, clearly waiting for me to nod and say thank you like a good soldier. Instead, I calmly placed a clean white envelope on her desk. "Thanks for the feedback," I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "This is my resignation. Effective 2 weeks from now." Denise's face flickered with surprise. "Jenna, hang on. Let's talk this out." "No need," I replied, steady and sure. "You made yourself clear. I'm just focused on results. That's why I'm leaving." What she didn't realize, what nobody in that building had noticed, was that while Lindsay was busy being likable, I had been quietly building something bigger. My own leadership coaching agency, fully licensed, profitable since the second quarter, running under the radar. This wasn't a loss. I hadn't been passed over. I had simply outgrown the room, and if any of this sounds like your story too, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because what Jenna does next proves that walking away isn't failure. It's elevation. I was already planning my next move, one that would make Denise's promotion choice look like the joke it really was. As I stepped out of her office, I felt the energy on the Northlake floor shift. Heads turned. Conversations hit pause. I could already picture Lindsay figuring out where to hang her "Boss Babe" poster above what used to be my desk, but I didn't flinch. I walked back to my cubicle like it was just another Monday. Because inside that resignation envelope, there was a second page. One that would make Denise choke on her small batch almond milk latte. The next 2 weeks were pure theater. Lindsay strutted through the bullpen with her coffee like she was on a runway, and the office was her audience. On day 4, she leaned casually against my cube wall, lips twisted in a smug little grin. "Jenna, I hope you're not too upset. I know you really had your heart set on that role." I met her eyes and gave a tight smile while backing up 3 years' worth of performance metrics, internal manuals, and streamlined processes. Not to steal, just to record. Every dollar saved. Every system I'd built. Every success credited to my team. "No hard feelings, Lindsay," I said smoothly. "You're going to shine." She left satisfied. But she had no clue what all those results were actually built on. 3 years earlier, out of sheer frustration, I'd started working on my own team productivity software. Never on company time. Never using company tools. And just last week, the patent came through. That second page of my resignation, it spelled out the direct financial value of that software, millions in projected revenue and retention, all tied to intellectual property with my name on it. A week after I walked, I got an email from Marcus King, CEO of Veridian Consulting, our biggest rival. We grabbed coffee, and he offered me more than just a job. He offered a stake, ownership, a future as he slid the contract across the table. He looked me dead in the eye. "We've been waiting for someone like you," he said. "Someone who gets that real legacy isn't about how you look, it's about what you deliver." When I signed that agreement, I felt it, something shifting inside me. That's what real acknowledgement feels like. Not a gold star for playing nice. Real respect. On my last day at Northlake Partners, right as I handed in my badge, Denise called me back into her office. She looked rattled. Her usual smooth, confident vibe had cracked. Her hand trembled as she held up a printed report. "Jenna, we need to talk about this document you included with your resignation," she said tightly. "Why didn't you tell anyone you'd built this platform?" I sat down slowly, adjusting the cuff of my navy jacket. "I did," I said. "I'd pitched the concept 3 separate times over the past 2 years. Each time, you brushed it off, claiming your focus was on boosting cross-team harmony." As Denise flipped through the pages, her face paled. The data laid it out clearly: reduced costs, automated task flows, and a predictive forecasting model that practically ran itself. "This is patented?" she asked, barely above a whisper. I nodded. "Filed last October. Fully approved. And I've accepted an equity partnership at RK Tech Solutions. They're already planning a firm-wide rollout." Denise let out a sharp breath. "RK? Jenna, no, you can't do that. They're our main competition in the Pacific Northwest." "What about loyalty?" I tilted my head slightly. "Loyalty? You mean when you picked Lindsay's charisma over my concrete results? Or when you sidelined my proposals because I didn't organize wine nights and office trivia?" She opened her mouth to reply, but I didn't give her the chance. "If you'd valued performance instead of popularity contests, this conversation wouldn't be happening." "We'll match their offer," she said quickly. "Senior Vice President. Just stay." "It was never about the title," I said calmly. "It was about being respected." As I walked out, I heard her start dialing frantically, but the damage was already done. If you believe respect should be earned, not pleaded for, and you're ready to follow the next chapter of what Jenna builds, hit subscribe. Because the story of how I went from overlooked to unstoppable is just getting started. The patent was legally mine. The ink on the deal with RK Tech was dry. And as for Lindsay? She was about to find out that charm might open the door, but only results keep it from slamming shut. That night, as I packed up the last of my desk supplies, I spotted a sticky note left on my monitor. "Sad to see you go. Keep in touch. Lindsay." I gave a half smile, crumpled the note, and tossed it in the trash. She'd be hearing my name again soon. Actually, the whole industry would. Day 1 at Architect Solutions felt like I'd entered an entirely new world. No more bland gray cubicles or cryptic Slack messages. My office had full-length windows overlooking Lake Michigan, a minimalist layout, and a nameplate on the door that read, "Jenna Reed, Partner, Strategic Systems and Innovation." But the real change wasn't the view or the title, it was the recognition. Jared Lewis, the CEO, held an all-staff meeting to welcome me. But instead of reading off some HR-approved bio, he told my story. He talked about the software I built, the numbers it delivered, and how it was already reshaping operations across the field. "Jenna's not here to fill a role," Jared said, looking around the room. "She's here to chart a new path. What she's built has saved companies millions. It's tested. It's game-changing. And it's just the beginning." Back at Northlake, I'd been the invisible engine running things from behind the scenes. Here at Architect, I was the one steering the ship, and everyone knew it. And then came the moment, 3 months in, that sealed the shift. Mid-strategy session, my phone buzzed. A message from Tarek Hamilton, one of the few sharp minds left at Northlake. "Check the headlines. It just dropped." I stepped into my office and opened the news. "Northlake Partners loses 30% of clients after Q2 system crash." The article didn't hold back. Missed deadlines. Overblown budgets. 3 major accounts gone in 1 quarter. It described Northlake's internal systems as broken, outdated, and dangerously reliant on undocumented processes. But one quote hit me hardest. "Their service has crumbled," said Thomas Kwan, CEO of Novalink Solutions. "We used to trust Northlake with high-level integrations. Now they can't even deliver the basics. It's like their operational backbone just vanished." I leaned back in my chair and smiled. "Oh, Ted. That backbone? That was me. The system they dismissed? The one they handed off to someone who couldn't even spell infrastructure, let alone maintain it? Yeah, that one." Another message popped up on my screen. This time from Turok, Lindsay's having a full-on meltdown in the break room. I leaned back in my chair, letting the sunlight pour across my desk from the lake view. I didn't need revenge. I had receipts. If you've ever been passed over, underestimated, or shoved aside in favor of someone louder, but far less qualified, hit subscribe, because Jenna's just getting started. And what comes next? Let's just say it's going to shake the entire industry. Lindsay had built her entire career on borrowed brilliance, buzzwords, fake confidence, and forced charm. But when it came time to lead, the curtain dropped. And Denise? She was watching her golden pick crumble in real time. Meanwhile, at Architect, my system wasn't just live, it was transforming the way we operated. Project timelines were slashed by more than half. Our client satisfaction scores hit record highs. Operational metrics? Off the charts. Jared had already greenlit expansion across all departments, and 3 Fortune 100 companies were deep into negotiations to license the platform. They didn't just misjudge me. They fell behind. Then one sharp Thursday morning, 6 months to the day since I walked out of Northlake Partners, I stepped into my office and spotted Jared Lewis waiting near my desk. He held up a folded newspaper, the Seattle Business Ledger. "Seen this yet?" he asked, raising his eyebrows. The front page headline blared, "Northlake Partners scrambles amid system collapse and senior staff exodus." I took the paper from him, giving a small nod. "Saw it this morning. Looks like they're finally tearing down the mess they built." Jared nodded. "They tried to recreate your platform from scratch, but they didn't understand the framework." I exhaled, half amused. They thought it was just lines of code. But the real value? It's the strategy behind it. That's what made it work. Jared smiled, that slow, satisfied grin of someone who sees the long game paying off, which is exactly why the board voted unanimously to promote you, he said. "As of next week, you're officially our Executive Vice President of Strategic Innovation. You didn't just optimize our systems, Jenna. You redefined our future." A warm, quiet pride rose in me. This was what recognition was supposed to feel like. Not a round of applause for being agreeable, but real respect for building something that lasts. Later that day, as the Seattle skyline turned amber in the fading light, a new email popped into my inbox. Subject: Apology. It was from Denise Caldwell. "I'm sure you've heard what's happening over here. I wanted you to know I was wrong. Completely wrong. Ignoring your work, your vision, was the worst professional decision I ever made. The board knows now. They've seen what you created. They've seen what we lost. I handed in my resignation last week. Lindsay stepped down a month ago. Turns out charm doesn't deliver results." I stared at the screen, feeling something stir, something quiet, maybe even bittersweet. Validation had arrived. Not that I needed it. But it was poetic just the same. Denise's email went on, "I know it's too late to undo what happened. But I wanted you to know you were right. Results matter. I just wish I'd realized that when it counted. Best, Denise." I read it twice. There was a time when a message like that would have cracked something open inside me, would have made me grieve what could have been. But not anymore. There was a time when late recognition might have mended something inside me. But that window had long since closed. Now, from my corner office at Architect Solutions, sunlight danced across the glass frame around my patent certificate. Behind me, a sleek plaque commemorated our most profitable quarter to date. On the shelf, a crisp copy of Forbes, folded open to a spread titled, "10 Women Reshaping the Future of Tech," with my name in bold at the top. Denise's message? It wasn't a reckoning anymore. It was a footnote. I clicked reply and typed, "Thank you for your message. You're right. Results do matter. I wish you well in what comes next." Then I hit send. I took a long look around my office. Every inch of it had been earned. Not gifted. Not politicked. Built brick by brick, with vision, grit, and work that couldn't be ignored. The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting. The room filled fast. Engineers, UX designers, product leads, every single person there because they wanted to be, not because it looked good. Once we settled, I stood Before we dive into the next rollout, I said, I want to share something. Not a strategy update, not code, a story about value, about recognizing it in others and in yourself, and about never letting anyone define your worth for you. Heads lifted, focus shifted. People leaned in not just to listen, but to connect. Because they got it, they knew this company, our company, wasn't running on appearances. It ran on principle, on purpose, on the belief that quiet strength, when backed by vision, builds movements. That evening, driving home along Lakeshore, I passed by the North Lake Partners building. The once impressive signage looked tired, sun-bleached. A flickering for lease sign blinked in the fourth-floor window. Downsizing again. But I didn't feel smugged. I felt grateful. Grateful they overlooked me. Grateful they dismissed what I had created. Because in doing so, they'd given me the greatest possible gift, freedom to build something better. Sometimes, rejection isn't the end. It's the catalyst. Sometimes, being too focused on results is exactly what makes you unstoppable. And sometimes, the best revenge is no revenge at all. Just impact so powerful, no one can look away. My phone buzzed. A message from Tarak lit up the screen. Northlake's board wants to talk. They're asking if you'd consider returning as CEO. I stared at it. Then typed, appreciate it, Tarak. But I'm exactly where I'm meant to be because real success, it's not about going back to prove anyone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about standing tall in your own worth, even when no one else sees it. It's about refusing to shrink to make others comfortable and rising, instead, for your purpose. And that's where the real story begins. I pulled into the garage of my townhouse in Queen, and I found myself thinking about the other Jennas out there. The quiet pros, the under-recognized, the ones doing extraordinary work in silence, passed over because they don't shout or scheme. Maybe this story, the one I lived, will reach just one of them. Maybe it'll be the nudge they need to stop waiting for permission and start building anyway, because rejection isn't the end. Sometimes, it's the redirection you didn't know you needed. You take the dismissal, you take the silence, and you turn it into momentum, into systems, into platforms, into legacies. Because too much, that was always just code for your more than they could handle. That night, sitting in my home office reviewing global licensing proposals for the very system I once built in secret, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Above my desk, framed in matte black, hung a quote Denise once tossed at me like an insult. You're too focused on results. She wasn't wrong. That focus is exactly what brought me here. T.O. leadership, T.O. innovation, T.O. clarity, T.O. the place I was always meant to stand on my own terms.